Friends, good evening to all of you. I think there was some audio challenges. Technology, they say it failed when you need it the most, and we have no control on certain things. Nevertheless, we'll do a small restart of things. We try to make as short as possible. I request see Abhishek Murli, because we have lost few minutes. We will not get into the complete formalities again. I request Abhishek Murli to quickly introduce the speaker, and then we request the speaker to take charge of the things. Abhishek, please.
Yes, as Chairman rightly said, we apologize for this technical difficulty, but we have to also rightly introduce our star speaker for the day, Dr. H.C. Jain sir, Hukumchand Jain sir. He's a PhD in history, joined the IRS in 1982 and served in the income tax department in various cities, including Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Chennai, Lucknow, Dehradun, Meerut, and he served in different levels, starting from assistant commissioner to commissioner, principal commissioner, and chief commissioner of the income tax. He subsequently served as a member in the settlement commission of the income tax and was elevated to the vice chairman of the settlement commission and served in Calcutta, Bombay, and Chennai, the most active places for settlement commission cases. And during his tenure, he was involved in more than 300 complex cases. He has a vast exposure in search and seizure cases. In fact, I'm very happy to say that before joining the settlement commission, he handled several challenging charges like the Commissioner of Income Tax in Central, Director of Criminal Investigation, and he played a very, very vital and key role in many investigation and post-search operations, such as nationwide scams like the security scam, the share premium scam, penny stock scam, Hawala, and the client code modifications, to name a few. In fact, this Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, the success is almost purely due to his efforts in especially unearthing these sort of schemes. Everyone who was on appeal has chosen to come under the scheme. In fact, after his retirement, he has now actively come out to guide taxpayers and professionals. He's also an advocate by qualification. In fact, he started his practice as an advocate, and then once he got into IRS, he surrendered his practice. Now he has restarted it again, and he is going around the country addressing various professional forums, especially chartered accountants and advocates, on the settlement commission, and he is guiding them as both a mentor and as a friend. In fact, he is now currently a member of the Audit Advisory Committee of the C&AG for the Western region, and he has a vast experience of training as a regular speaker on tax-related issues in various forums and spiritual subjects. I can say that in a very short span of time, Advocate Hukumchand Jain sir, IRS, has become a very close friend. He has become a guide, and in fact, I am very, very happy to say that he's such a down-to-earth person. Despite such elevated positions that he has held, he is very down-to-earth, and his contributions are really, really huge, not only in the professional field but also in the spiritual field. He's an excellent speaker. I have listened to his seminars, so getting his time is a real huge opportunity for us. So thank you so much, Hukumchand Jain sir, for joining us today and addressing our member. I welcome you to take over the session now.
I am very thankful to Shri DC Jain ji, Shri Pannaraj ji, and Abhishek Murli ji for a kind introduction and for saying nice words for me. I also extend a very hearty welcome to all the participants who are attending here on this webinar. As we know that very few of us are fully familiar with the functioning of Income Tax Settlement Commission, and this is the purpose of holding this webinar. This is my 11th or 12th perhaps webinar on this subject. I have conducted a lot of webinars on the western side in Gujarat, in Maharashtra. I also had one in Bangalore, and now I am having this. And this is there is a very wide participation, and I am very glad. So I would like to share about the procedure and practice of Income Tax Settlement Commission, which is a very esteemed institution. That is the esteemed institution for alternative dispute resolution. There is a normal litigation channel open to us, like appearing before the assessment before assessing officer, then CIT appeal, then ITAT, High Courts. That is the normal route through which we have to pass. But it was, in fact, there was a committee, Direct Taxes Inquiry Committee, which was headed by Justice Vanchu, who was former Chief Justice of India, and in his report on black money and tax evasion, he recommended that there should be some window for one-time tax evader or unintending tax defaulter to make clean breast of his affairs through settlement or reconciliation. Accordingly, the government constituted Settlement Commission in 1976 with the purpose of reduction in protected litigation, speedy settlement of cases, complicated cases, quick recovery of taxes, and giving relief so far as immunity from penalty and prosecutions are concerned. In 1976, when the Settlement Commission was constituted, it had only one bench at Delhi. Later on, the number of benches got increased, and now we are having 7 benches of Income Tax Settlement Commission, 3 benches, 1 principal bench and 2 additional benches at Delhi, who have jurisdiction over northern states from J&K, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, UP, Uttarakhand, and MP, and Chandigarh. Then we have 2 benches at Mumbai. They have jurisdiction over the state of Gujarat, the state of Maharashtra, including Mumbai, and state of Karnataka. We have 1 bench, 1 additional bench at Chennai, which have jurisdiction over Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, and Telangana, and 1 bench at Kolkata, having jurisdiction over Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar, West Bengal, and northeastern states. So this way, the entire jurisdiction has been divided into these 7 benches. The principal bench is headed by chairman and 2 members, and all other benches are headed by vice chairman and 2 members. The selection of members is from the senior officers of Income Tax Department, from the rank of Principal Commissioner of Income Tax, or Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, or Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, and their selection is done by a screening committee by Government of India, and their requirement is they should be men of integrity, having outstanding ability in terms of experience and knowledge of tax laws and business accounts. The tenure of members of Income Tax Settlement is up to 62 years. So anybody who joins Income Tax Settlement at the age of 59 plus gets 2 years or little more than that to serve in the Income Tax Settlement Commission. The senior most member of any bench is presiding officer and is named as vice chairman of that bench. Every bench consists of 3 members, and decisions are taken by majority view. Usually decisions are always unanimous, except barring aside in few cases where there is a dissenting view also. The minimum quorum for operation of the bench or for functioning of bench is 2 members minimum. If there is a vacancy, then additional charge is assigned to the other member of the other bench by the chairman. Chairman is overall controlling officer so far as administration is concerned, financial matters are concerned, but so far as technical matters are concerned, all the benches are autonomous and they have full powers. Now every bench has 1 secretary who is of the rank of Commissioner of Income Tax, who takes charge of entire administration, who is responsible for administration of the bench, like receipt of DAC, issue of notices, sending the orders, and helping the commission drafting of orders. The secretary is assisted by administrative officer, superintendent, and other staff. So it is the administrative wing of the bench who is headed by the secretary. Then there is a director investigation and additional director below him, and some inquiry officers who assist the bench or the settlement commission in matters of inquiries, verification, and investigation. Then there is also 1 CITDR with each bench, and he is also the rank of Commissioner of Income Tax. He represents the department in all the cases before the Settlement Commission. So basically the functioning of Income Tax Settlement Commission is more or less the same as Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. It is like a court, except that there are 3 members sitting there, as against in the ITAT we have 2 members or 1 member. There is no concept of single member bench in the Settlement Commission. Another distinction is that Income Tax Settlement Commission is a arbitrational tribunal. So there is no, it is not bound by any precedent. Every case, the proceedings are confidential and private, so you don't get any knowledge of the cases decided by the Settlement Commission because they are not published in any journal. And the Income Tax Settlement Commission is not bound by any finding or decision given in the other cases. So he has more discretion and more powers. Another thing is that the decisions of Income Tax Settlement Commission are final and conclusive with regard to the matters decided by it, and they are not appealable before High Court. Only a writ can lie against the order of the Settlement Commission before High Court on two grounds. Either there is a violation of any express provision of Income Tax Act which is prejudicial to the appellant or applicant, and second, that the decision making process has not been followed, like there is some procedure which is laid down in the Act and in the Income Tax Settlement Commission rules, and if it is proved that Income Tax Settlement Commission has overlooked or ignored that procedure, then the writ lies and the High Court can restore the matter back to the Settlement Commission. But so far as the decisions of Settlement Commission on merits are concerned, they cannot be examined and they cannot be interfered by the High Court. This has been the unanimous view of High Court and Supreme Court, because this is more a kind of statutory arbitration. So that is the benefit of going to the Income Tax Settlement Commission. Then Income Tax Settlement Commission has the power to grant immunity from penalty and prosecution. We will now deal with the procedure later on, but I am telling what are the benefits. So in the Income Tax Settlement Commission, when we filed an application, our main purpose is to get immunity from all the penalties which are leviable in those particular cases and the prosecution, because in generally the cases where search have taken place or survey has taken place or some material evidence has been found against the assessee, and we find that there is no escape, there is no explanation which can be accepted by the department. So if you proceed in the normal litigation channel, normal assessment proceedings, it will be ongoing. You will always be continuing with the litigation with no hope of success. So then this is the only window open here where you make a full and true disclosure of income. We will deal with that, and then you can seek immunity from penalty and prosecution. So one basic purpose why we approach to the Settlement Commission is to seek immunity from penalty and prosecution and to get very time-bound settlement of the cases, because the overall limit of settlement is 18 months. Any application which is filed before the Settlement Commission has to be finally disposed of by way of settlement within 18 months from the end of the month in which application has been filed. Generally in practice, it doesn't take even 18 months, usually 10 months, 12 months, 14 months, depending upon the pendency and also the compliance from the department. Only this much time is taken. So if we compare the normal litigation, normal assessment proceedings, in any such case, it takes 10 years, 12 years or 15 years, sometimes 20 years to get the matter finally closed. As against this, if you approach in the Income Tax Settlement Commission, then the matter gets settled within a period of 18 months. There is no penalty, there is no prosecution. So that is a very great advantage. And for that reason, in all such cases, the professionals should explore the option of approaching the Settlement Commission by taking expert advice. Once expert advice is taken, then substantial amount of work can be handled by any professional. There is no such kind of skills which are required. Of course, mentoring or guidance is required. Then another important benefit which is available in before the Income Tax Settlement Commission is that in Income Tax Settlement Commission there is a comprehensive settlement of cases. Like if there has been search in 10 cases, so one can file applications in all the 10 cases together before the commission, and there will be adjustment or utilization of income vis-a-vis the assets and investments found during the search. So before settlement commission, those 10 or 20 entities which are there in the group cases, the income can be assessed in different hands and its utilization can be claimed in other hands of the group by way of investments or personal expenditure or buying of some gold, jewelry, construction of house, whatever. I'll explain this by demonstrating one or two example in the later course of my discussion. So these are the various advantages. Then once the order of the settlement commission is pronounced, then no matters which are decided by the settlement commission can be reopened by any authority, any income tax authority or any authority under law. So they are final, they are conclusive. If there is some deficiency or some error, then it has to be pointed out to the commission, and commission only can take a view or review of that matter, but no other authority is empowered or authorized to take a review of those matters. So that is a very, very beneficial position insofar as settlement commission is concerned. Now we deal with the cases where it is open for the applicant to approach the income tax settlement commission. For approaching income tax settlement commission, there has to be pendency of assessment proceedings. That is the first requirement. First condition, only in those cases where assessments have not yet been completed. What are those cases or those years? First, number one, when returns have been filed, returns of income have been filed, but assessments have not been finalized. Whether notice has been issued, notice has not been issued, but the time for completion of assessment is not yet over and there has been no assessment. So in all those cases of the fresh returns, assessment proceedings are taken as pending for purposes of settlement commission. So in those years, one can file application for settlement. Then the notice is issued under section 148 for reassessment. Then also reassessment proceedings are pending before the AO. So in those assessment years also, one can approach to the settlement commission. And if there are similar facts and circumstances in other assessment years where department can issue 148, then even for those years, pendency is there. Deemed pendency will be taken for issue of notices under section 148. So even suppose there is a penny stock matter and there is some escapement of income, but the department is yet to issue notice under section 148, but on the same facts, a notice has already been issued under 148. So even for the other years, there will be deemed pendency, and even for those assessment years, the assessee can approach before the commission. Then if there is a search and seizure action, then notices under section 153A have been issued, then those assessments are also pending. Then issue of notice under section 153C, in those cases also proceedings are taken as pending. Then commissioner sets aside the order under section 263 or under section 264, then also assessment proceedings are pending. Then if IT-80 sets aside any matter to be framed de novo, then in that case also assessment proceedings are taken as pending. So these are the cases or assessment years: fresh returns, assessments not completed, 148 cases, 153 cases, 263 cases, 264 and 254. In all those cases where assessment proceedings are pending, the assessee, who is called applicant, can approach the Income Tax Settlement Commission. This is the first eligibility condition, that only in those years where assessment proceedings are pending before AO, the applicant has a choice to go to the Settlement Commission. So if assessment is already completed, then the only way out is to move to the CIT appeal. And in the present circumstances, one can try to get resolution through Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. So both the scheme are complementary. The Vivad Se Vishwas scheme is applicable in those cases where assessments have been completed and appeals are pending. And the Settlement Commission, one can approach only in those cases in those assessment year in which assessment proceedings are pending. Second requirement, that applicant has disclosed full and true income which has not been disclosed to the department. Means there must be some income to disclose, and that disclosure should be now full and true. Before department, the income was not disclosed full and true earlier. Now the assessee should come forward to make full and true disclosure of income before commission. That is the second requirement. And the applicant also explains the manner of deriving such income. He has to explain how that income which he is now disclosing before the Settlement Commission, how this income has been derived. Then there is a limit of taxation. If it is a search case, main search case, then minimum tax liability on the additional income disclosed before the commission should be 50 lakhs. That means minimum income which you are expected to disclose before the commission in a main search case should not be less than 1.5 crore, which is nothing. Usually before the commission, cases of huge disclosure come because in the search and seizure, now the amount of disclosures are quite heavy. But for purposes of limit, it is very, very modest, very reasonable. Any case can be eligible so far as the tax payment requirement is concerned. So 50 lakhs and any related cases of the group, in those cases, the tax limit is only 10 lakhs. Then in the non-search cases or even in survey cases, the minimum requirement of tax payment is 10 lakhs. So far as this criteria is concerned, requirement of tax liability of 50 lakhs and 10 lakhs is very modest, but this has to be fulfilled. Then there has to be a fee payment of 500 rupees for filing an application. There is a form 34B that is a statutory form, and there are basic details, name of the applicant, his assessing officer particulars, commissioner particulars, in the assessment years, details of assessment years in which he is filing an application, how much income he is disclosing, how much is the computation of taxes and interest. All these details are indicated there. Also nature and circumstances of the case, issues to be decided by the commission, terms of settlement. All those things are to be filled up in that form 34B. In this form 34B only, it is written nature and circumstances of the case and issues to be settled and also manner of deriving income. So this is the most important part and this is the most challenging part where the guidance of a mentor or guidance of a senior expert is needed. And this is called a statement of facts. In every case which we move to the Settlement Commission, a statement of fact has to be prepared. And this statement of facts may run into few pages or may run even into 50 pages or 100 pages, depending upon the kind of material, seized material or incriminating documents have been found and how they have to be reconciled. So that reconciliation has to be made, and on that basis, full and true income has to be deduced, has to be disclosed, because there has to be full and true income based on those documents, and that we have to highlight in that statement of facts. How these documents, how do we decipher them? How do we deduce this much of income and not more? So that we have to find out, and we have to do it year wise. There may be 10 years, there may be 5 years, 6 years. We have to disclose income year wise. And then we have also to explain the modus operandi, that is manner of driving the income. That is the statement of facts. And after that, once we prepare this, then we have to compute the tax and interest liability and make the payment of tax and interest on that income which we are disclosing, and we need to submit a proof to the Settlement Commission. Before we file an application to the Settlement Commission, we have to give an intimation assessing officer that we are filing an application to the Settlement Commission, so that assessing officer comes to know about the application being filed to the Settlement Commission, and the moment an application is filed with the Settlement Commission, the Settlement Commission gets vested with all the powers of an income tax authority, and assessing officer power gets suspended. He cannot proceed further in the matters of assessment or in matters of inquiry, in matters of recovery, so far as those assessment years are concerned. So the moment one files an application to the Settlement Commission and gives an intimation to the AO, the entire jurisdiction over those assessment years in that particular case gets shifted to the Settlement Commission, and it is very relieving to the applicant, because hitherto he is facing inquiries, summons, assessment proceedings, letters, and so many other things, and in number of cases. So it gives a lot of relief. Now I again repeat the requirements. Firstly, there must be assessment proceedings pending. Then assessee has to make a full and true disclosure of income, and also explain the manner of driving such income. That is the second condition. Then there has to be a minimum. There has to be fulfillment of minimum tax payment. That is, the limit is 50 lakhs in the main search case, and in rest of the cases 10 lakhs, and even in the non-search cases also 10 lakhs per case. It may be 5 assessment year, 2 or 3, it doesn't make a difference. We are talking about the requirement per case, not per assessment year. In one case, all total together, aggregate of the tax to be paid should not be less than 50 lakhs or 10 lakhs. Then we have to fill a form, that is form 34B, and we have to also make a statement of facts narrating the entire facts and circumstances of that case, reconciling all the seized material and incriminating documents, and also deducing the income in different assessment years. Also, we need to explain the manner of driving of such income. What is full and true disclosure of income? The courts have said that all material facts relevant for income, for computation of income, should be disclosed in the statement of facts. Second, computation of income based on those facts should be bona fide, fair, and reasonable. This is the definition of full and true disclosure. There have been case laws that in case some income which has not been detected by the department, is it the duty of the applicant is still to disclose that? The courts have said that in full and true disclosure, whether the department has detected some concealed income or not, it is your duty to come clean and to disclose every concealed income. Once it is found later on by the commission that you have still concealed, you have not disclosed full and true, the immunity will be denied to you, and your matter will get worse, because all the papers will be sent back to the department. So one has to be very cautious while preparing the statement of facts, need to take a proper advice from a senior person or from a guide who has good experience of the income tax settlement cases, because Income Tax Settlement Commission is not governed by any rule of precedents. Nothing is binding on Income Tax Settlement Commission. It is only the inner experience of that person, either he has worked as member or vice chairman, or maybe some of the senior consuls who have appeared before the settlement commission in a number of cases. Out of that experience, they develop some knowledge and experience and have a sense of confidence that if we prepare our statement of facts this way, then perhaps it will be accepted. So that is very, very important. So all these things, when we do payment of fee of 500, then form 34BA, that is intimation to the AO, then all this is filed. And the proceedings are very quick in the Income Tax Settlement Commission. Within 7 days of receipt of application, the commission's secretary, he issues a notice, fixes it for hearing, first hearing. That is called a hearing for admission of that application. So within 7 days, a notice will get issued, and within 14 days of receipt of application, that means another 7 days, the application will be heard. The first hearing, which is called admission stage, in that first hearing, the department side is not represented. It is between applicant and the commission. The applicant comes with the counsel, explains the statement of facts and other details, and then commission or the bench, if has some queries, they seek clarifications, and after that the application is admitted in majority of the cases. And if in some cases there is some deficiency, then the bench will reject it. Orders are pronounced in the open court. Suppose it is rejected, then the applicant is free to move another application correcting those deficiencies, making good those errors. So there is no loss as such if the application is rejected. In my tenure itself, sometimes I have rejected application 3 times and have admitted 4 times. So the first time, the administration stage, if some error has crept in, and if the bench is very alert, then they reject the application so that it can be resubmitted. That will be a fresh application again, and then it can be admitted. So first stage is very simple. Within 14 days of receipt of your application, in one hearing only, the bench will decide the matter, and in good number of cases it is admitted. Once it is admitted, then the second stage starts. When it is admitted, thereafter your application along with all the details, enclosures, everything will be sent to the Commissioner of Income Tax having jurisdiction over your case. And within 30 days from the date of receipt of that order, the order of admission will also go to that commissioner. Order also and the application also along with annexures. Then the commissioner has to submit a report within 30 days of receipt of that communication from the commission to the commission. Means a report has to be received by the commission within 30 days from the commissioner, asking his comments about the validity of the application. So that is the second stage, that is called 245 2C stage. I am not giving these sections names because it is my broad, I am broadly highlighting everything, so it must be in the mind of all the professionals, and then one can go through the act, or one can discuss it again also. So this is called the second stage, where commission has to decide whether the proceedings are valid or invalid. So there will be some objections from commissioner side stating that income is not full and true, or manner of deriving income has not been explained, or computation of taxes or interest is short, or the assessment proceedings were not pending. So whatever objections he want to say, he will say, and his copy will be given to the applicant. And within 15 days, the applicant is required to give his comments, and the hearing will also be fixed by the commission within 15 days of receipt of the report of the commissioner. And then at this second stage, there is a CIT DR representing that is the Commissioner of Income Tax rank DR departmental representative, who is explaining the objections raised by the commissioner, and also there is a AO present there, assessing officer or additional commissioner. So department is also represented and the applicant is also represented. So the objections are explained by the CITDR from the department side. Then the applicant's counsel gives clarification, and after hearing both the sides, the Income Tax Settlement Commission allows the application or rejects it, may reject it. So when he allows it, he writes application treated as not invalid. That is the legal term. Not invalid means it is valid. Otherwise, if it is rejected, then it will be written it is invalid. So if it is invalid, then it is definitely a big loss to the applicant, because now once it is rejected, the applicant's case will be sent back to the AO or with all the details. So there have been disclosure by the SSC, and now it goes back to the department. So department is in a very strong position now to take an adverse view so far as penalty is concerned or maybe prosecution is concerned. So therefore it is very, very necessary to seek expert opinion and expert guidance while preparing the applications for settlement commission. One can do the groundwork, but for preparation of the application, some senior person has to be consulted definitely. Once this second stage is over, that is also in one hearing, then the order of settlement commission is sent to the Commissioner of Income Tax, and Commissioner of Income Tax is required to give his final report, that is called Rule 9 report, for the final stage of hearing. So in that report, the Commissioner highlights in detail his objections to the computation of income, saying that this income which is disclosed before the Commission is less. He will make his own computation based on the appraisal report and other inputs. Department always says that applicant has not disclosed fully and true income, and they point out certain defects and deficiencies. On manner of earning of income also, the commissioner always writes something adverse. He may also point out some other facts. He may also say about the penalties and prosecution. So this report, when it is received, its copy is given to the applicant, and within 15 days, he has to submit his reply, and then the hearing is fixed for the final settlement of the case. That is the third hearing or third stage. That is called 245D4 stage. Here, the Commissioner's objections are heard carefully. Applicant's clarification is taken by bench. Bench may also raise some more queries out of their experience. And after hearing both the sides, maybe in that particular hearing or maybe one or two more hearing, depending upon the magnitude of the work required to be done, they may decide the matter. Now, usually what happens when the Commissioner is coming forward with some objections, then it happens that some of the points raised by Commissioner are not accepted by the bench. They say, no, there is no truth, there is no substance in this. But on certain objections, they feel that the applicant can come forward to disclose little more. So this is sounded, a signal is given to the applicant and his counsel, and then they comply with it, and they write a letter saying that we are willing to disclose further 1 crore or 2 crore or 50 lakhs or 20 lakhs in order to put quietus to the disputes in the spirit of settlement. This is the language. Because if they don't write like this, there may be objections from the department side at a later date that the initial disclosure made was not full and true. Because if in your application you have made a full and true disclosure, then how come now you are disclosing more? So many times department takes it to the High Court, but High Court has held that even if at the final stage of hearing, the assessee is willing to disclose little more, but his purpose is just to put quietus to the disputes in the spirit of settlement. It is not that something is detected definitely and conclusively. It is only that out of his motive to get the matter settled, he is willing to offer more. Then we cannot say that initial application did not contain full and true disclosure of income. So there has been a case of international taxation where that foreign company offered 150 crores more in the final stage as a additional income over the income which was disclosed initially. So in that case, the department challenged it, said that commission had no power to settle the matter because the initial disclosure of income was definitely not true and full. Otherwise, how come that the foreign company made further disclosure of 150 crores at the last hearing or to settle the matter? The court held that department was not having any evidence to prove that this 150 crores was a concealed income. It was only out of free will, out of volition, or out of take a settlement of the matter, and after hearing the view of the bench, that foreign company decided to surrender or to disclose 150 crores more to put quietus to the issue in the split of settlement, and that case was settled rightly. So there has been unanimity of opinion in all the high courts. Even at final stage, one can disclose more income, but that income should not be a hidden income or concealed income. That income should be just on account of some estimate, not that we have found some new source of income or we have found some new documents showing that these documents were not shown, or they were shown but the income indicated in those papers were not taken. If it is so, then perhaps it will be a case where full and true disclosure was not there. That is the distinction. So that is the another stage. Now I have told about three stages. First stage, admission stage of proceeding. Second stage of validity of proceedings, that is holding not invalid or invalid. And third is the final stage where the final settlement takes place. First admission stage, generally one hearing. Second stage of not invalidity, that is validation of proceedings, again one hearing. The last stage may sometime involve more than one hearing, maybe 2 hearings or 3 hearings, depending upon the cases. So entire matter is disposed of maximum 4 to 5 hearings, running over a span of 10 to 12 months. Overall time frame is 18 months. Now there can be one more stage, that is called the third stage, that is the D3 stage. Sometimes the commissioner calls for, requests the commission that some inquiry is to be conducted. The commissioner says that these are the issues on which the investigation wing did not make any inquiry, and we want to conduct inquiry, we want to summon certain parties, record their statement. So then this third stage, one more stage is added before the last stage. Then the commission hears on the request of the commissioner whether inquiry to be allowed or not to be allowed, and they also hear the objections of the applicant. Applicant always raises the objections. Everything is now before the commission. Commission may verify through his DI or may carry out a joint verification, because if inquiry is handed over back to the officer, then it will put a lot of harassment or embarrassment to the assessee, because so many parties will be called. So the commission takes a very conservative view. Only when it is really essential to conduct inquiry, then only commission orders or empowers or authorizes the commissioner to make an inquiry. Otherwise, commission generally says that you do verification only. So what is the difference in verification and the inquiry? In verification, you have to verify the information which is submitted by the applicant with regard to the records. You have not to call for, you have not to summon any third party to record his statement. But in some cases, if inquiry is necessary, the commission authorizes the commissioner to get the inquiries conducted through the AO. If it is so, then 90 days are given, allowed for purposes of inquiry or verification. So then it becomes third stage. So in this situation, there are 4 stages. First stage is the admission stage. Second stage is the holding application as valid, invalid or not invalid. Third stage is inquiry stage, and fourth stage is the final stage of settlement of the matter. So even if third stage, that is the inquiry stage, is inserted, then also the entire matter get settled in 5 to 6 hearings, because for purposes of inquiry only one hearing takes place, and then the inquiry report comes, his copy is given to the applicant, his clarifications are taken, and while finally hearing the matter, all those reports, those comments and objections of the commissioner, as well as the clarifications given from the SSC sites are considered, and thereafter the matter is decided in the spirit of settlement. Many times the bench feels that there can be little more disclosure, and that hint is given to the counsel of the applicant, and applicant is also willing to disclose little more income, that may be few lakhs or few crore depending upon the facts of the case. So that has been an experience. Now I just want to tell you how beneficial it is to go to the commission by demonstrating in one hypothetical case. Suppose there is a search and seizure in a case of builder or developer who was engaged in sale of flats and sale of plots, and information has been gathered or seized by the department that this particular builder has received own money in cash, which has not been shown in the regular books of accounts, and the amount which has been calculated by the department on the basis of seized material is 20 crores. Then there is also seized material, seized record of unexplained expenditure incurred for construction and for other things to the extent of 10 crores. Evidence is also found in the search that there are unexplained investment in construction of house, in the marriage expenses of daughter, in purchase of jewelry and gold to the extent of 5 crores. So this is a hypothetical case where the department has captured or has seized data showing 20 crores of own money, which is not in the regular books of account, 10 crores of expenditure not recorded in the regular books of account, 5 crores unexplained investment. And this group consists of 10 cases where there are 2-3 firms, maybe one company, and then there are individuals, maybe directors and partners. Now, notices under section 153 have been issued in all these 10 cases for 6 years. There may be notices under 148 for the 7th year, and then there are the current fresh returns for the current year. Now, this way, there is 8 years or 7 years in each case, and 10 cases altogether, it becomes 70 or 80 cases. Now suppose if we go to the normal assessment route, now how the assessing officer is going to deal with this case? He will try to find out what is the exact own money received in all these projects. So might be there is some cases where own money is not recorded in this seized material. In that particular case, he will extrapolate the own money. He will extrapolate the own money, and then this comes to 30 crores. It comes to 30 crores. So extrapolation has to be accepted by the SSC, because this is a mathematical working. That is that you have to presume, you have to suppose that if in 10 cases, 10 flats, there has been own money received during the same period, in other flats also the own money has been received. So the AO will make it 30 crores, and AO will make addition of 30 crores on account of own money, 10 crores on account of unexplained expenditure, 30 plus 10, 40, and then 5 crores on account of unexplained investment. So it becomes totally 45 crores, 30 crores own money plus 10 crores expenditure plus 5 crores investments. So 45 crores. And the AO is going to make addition under section 68 or 69. So 45 crores in different hands, and he will apply section 115 BBE, where tax rate will be 60% and 10% penalty. So it will be around 70% or so. So 45 crores applying the rate of 70%, this will be almost 30 crores. So 30 crores will be the tax liability, and penalty will also be initiated separately for other violations. Now, if we take this case to the commission, how do we deal? We will also extrapolate the own money before the commission in the application. We will say that there have been receipts outside the books of accounts, and there have been expenditure also outside the books of accounts. And we are not in possession of exhaustive and comprehensive record of unaccounted receipts and unaccounted expenditure. So therefore, the only way is to apply a reasonable rate of profit in such cases. So we will say that reasonable rate of profit in such cases is 30% or 25%. Let us take 25%. So we will offer income on 30 crores of extrapolated own money at the rate of 25%, and then it will come to 7.5 crores. So 7.5 crores income we will offer in the state settlement commission in the statement of facts, and we will take benefit of utilization or application of this 7.5 crores against 5 crores of investment which have been found. So we will say that we have earned this income in the hands of firm, 7.5 crore, maybe 3-4 firms, whatever we will write in their applications, and we will claim its benefit or application in the hands of partners or directors where there are investments in construction of house, or maybe marriage of the daughter, or maybe buying of gold or jewelry. So here it is possible, because there is a comprehensive settlement of all cases together, that income may be earned in one hand and its application can be claimed in another hand, which is not possible for the AO to give like this. Thereafter, we can also claim capitalization for the balance amount of 2.5 crore, because 5 crore investment is taken set off against income disclosed at 7.5 crore. But even for remaining 2.5 crores, we can say that there was some cash, or we want to pay taxes. So commission may allow some capitalization further. It will be depending upon the discretion of the commission, but there are many instances when the commission has allowed cash to the extent of taxes to be paid or in some other manner. So that will depend upon the exact facts of that case. So now you see, if you have offered only 7.5 crores of income and the normal rate of tax will be applicable, that will be only 30%. So 30% of 7.5, this will be around how much? It will be 2.2 or 2.5 crore, 2.3 crore. So 2.3 crore as per this application to the settlement commission, and there it was coming to 30 crores in the normal assessment proceedings. And in normal assessment proceedings, thereafter you have to go to the appeals. There will be penalty proceedings. There will be prosecution proceedings. So income tax settlement commission, when the hearing takes place, maybe they don't accept your application on 7.5 disclosure. They say this is less, make it 30%. So it may be increased to 9 crores. Even if it is increased to 9 crores, then also what is the tax effect? 30%, 2.7 crore. Maybe it is increased further. Maybe they also take it, say 35%. Then also you will find, whenever you compare the situations or the imposition of taxes and computation of income, the position
Sir, can you hear us?
I think we have lost his audio.
I will just call him.
In fact, there are some bandwidth issues from the speaker's end. That is the reason the video froze. We thought we'll continue because the audio was very clear. But I think we'll have to request the speaker to reconnect. I think that's a bandwidth issue from his end only. Yeah, few members are putting it is not audible. There are some bandwidth issues from our speakers end. We are trying to reconnect to him and see that we are able to get him online.
Yeah, sir is just trying to reconnect. I think there are some connectivity issues in Bombay right now. So he said he's just trying to reconnect.
Yeah, Abhishek, can we go ahead with some announcements so that we
Yeah,
save time?
sure. Perfect, perfect. Let me just take this opportunity to
Yeah.
share the few announcements. So to add I'll take this minute to quickly share the future announcements that we have. We have finalized many programs. Today is, of course, Settlement Commission program we are happening today on 17th of June. That is day after tomorrow, on Wednesday at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We have a program on reverse charge mechanism and interplay of the latest notifications pertaining to GST. Pertaining to GST, we have CA Rajendra Arora joining us from Delhi live at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, 17th of June at 6 p.m. On 20th of June, we are continuing our programs on standards on auditing. So we have CA RS Balaji who will be addressing on the standards of auditing. As you are all aware, it is a mandatory compliance requirement now, doing at least 4 hours. That is 2 hours on standards on auditing and 2 hours on ethics. So this program will add to our whatever minimum compliance you need to meet also. And it's a very, very interesting program as well. On 26th of June, we have a program on survey search and seizure. We have got Selva Ganesh IRS who will be joining us for that program. He has handled the most sensitive cases in India. Whatever you can think of, he has played a very key role in all the survey search and seizure cases of the biggest cases. In fact, probably the India's #1 terrorist assets also he has attached. So that's the sort of reputation he carries. On 26th of June, that is on Friday, that is 26th June Friday at 6 p.m. He will be addressing. It's a 2-hour program. And 26th of June, please request you all to register. Then once again on 27th of June, that is the next day after this program on the Saturday, the standards on auditing 3rd day program continues. We have CA Chinnasamy Ganeshan, very, very reputed speaker, who will be joining us on that day for the final and most important leg, which will be going on audit conclusions and audit reporting. So that is on 27th of June. So these are the broad programs that we have planned. We are, of course, in discussions of future programs also. And I have to give a lot of credit to our dynamic chairman, CA Dungarchand Jain, where almost every day we are on calls and he is always saying how we can plan and arrange better programs for our members. I also request members, if you have any feedback, please feel free to share it with us. We are ready to listen with a very, very open mind. So feel free to share and we will definitely work on it. Whether it is good, whether it is bad, we will definitely improve on it and try to deliver better programs. Or if you need any specific programs, we can try to organize that also. So over to our dynamic chairman, CA Dungarchand Jain.
2 more programs to add. We will announce the other details shortly. One is on 4th of July, this Saturday. We're having a data analytics program. It was just scheduled this week, but then we have a cap of 10 programs. So we wanted the important programs first, and the little, not that it is not important, but of the priorities, we have to choose a different date. So that's happening on 4th of July. And another program on IBC, a workshop, which is going to happen for a few days. That is also going to happen in the 1st or 2nd week of July, for which we request everybody to kind of take benefit by attending the program. Yes, HC Jain sir. Sorry, sir. I think there was some
So
technical
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Now clear.
You're audible.
So that example of builder was complete, or you were hearing that is complete, na? I
Yes,
could
sir. Yes, sir.
convey that. Okay. So now I take another instance of a case which I came across. That was a case of a rice miller where a survey was conducted, and during the course of survey, some inventory of the paddy bags was prepared by the survey team, and the stock was valued at around 3 crores. The person came across the settlement commission and he told that his stock was very heavily valued, and he produced some paper, some certificate from the technical expert showing that the premises where the godown where the stock was kept, it was not sufficient to have the space for that many bags, and the maximum stock which could be kept in that godown would be not more than 1 crore. This man had paid the taxes also during the course of after the survey, and had also disclosed that stock of 3 crores. When those things were submitted to the commission, commissioner called for a report from the commissioner and asked to send somebody, some inspector there to verify what is the capacity of that godown. And when the no proper reply was received, commissioner said that okay, it is not possible to keep that much of stock, but stock was kept somewhere else. The commission again asked, you tell us where the stock was kept and why, when you made the inventory, you did not write the right address. So after considering the reply of the department, because it was not satisfactory, the stand of the applicant was approved by the commission, and with some variation, the whatever maximum stock could be kept in that godown physically, only that much valuation was taken. So before the commission, if we approach commission, 3 senior officers having more than 35 years of service, all 3 together having more than 100 years of service, as against the assessing officer who is having only few years of service. And these members are very sharp and they know what is the truth. Only thing we need to be truthful, and we need to disclose our income fully before the commission. Then you are likely to get justice, receive justice from the commission. Then we recall another, there are many cases of the doctors which are coming before the commission. Doctor cases, they show the receipts, and they also make investments in construction of clinics, or maybe buying of property and buying of equipments. So what happens, suppose the receipts are in the individual hands of doctor, the construction will be in the hands of wife, and buying the equipments may be in somebody else's hands or in the hands of the firm. Now, if in all these cases, if all the 2 or 3 entities, they approach to the settlement commission, they are able to get the benefit of adjustment. Income offered in one hand, its application or utilization benefit is taken in the hands of the firm or in the hands of the wife, which is not possible. Then there are cases of suppression of expenses or inflation of purchases. We recall number of cases where purchases are inflated by the SSC, either by increasing the rate or by taking the bogus voucher. And even those amounts are again reintroduced in the books by way of loans. So if it so happens, if they are in the income tax department, if the assessment is done, they are going to add entire purchases, inflated purchases, and they are also going to add the loans, cash loans or loans which have been taken. But before the commission, if you come, if you offer the income on account of inflation, then you can take its utilization that the same amount has been brought back into the accounts in the garb of loans which have been repaid. So there is always, before the income tax department, there is a chances of double additions, whereas in the income tax settlement commission, you always have a claim to seek capitalization of the income which you have offered and to claim for its application in proper hands. So that's a very, very beneficial situation. There are cases of agriculture income. Sometimes huge agriculture income has been shown by the applicant, because they thought that now when we are showing, let us show it more for the future capital. But when the department investigates, there is no lease deed, there is no proper assets, then the department will disallow, will treat the entire agriculture income as the non-agriculture income. But if in those cases the applicant approaches the commission, he can say that I had unnecessarily, notionally increased his income, but I did not earn that much income. Actually, I earned much lesser. So there is a chance, there is an option before the commission that if you are able to convince them, they can be convinced and they can allow you relief. That is another beneficial aspect. Then there are cases of penny stock, share premium, own money we have already talked. There are cases of claim of wrong deduction under section 54. There have been cases of client code modification. There are cases of jewelers, dairy. Dairy, there are a lot of inflation. Purchases are inflated. The purchasing of milk is inflated, and then they are siphoned by the directors. There are cases of educational society, where educational societies increases their expenditure or they are receiving capitation fee, and that money is secreted by the trustees or by other entities. So here also comprehensive settlement is possible before the commission. There are cases of religious trust. We came across a case of religious trust where 12A was not obtained, and they were under impression that there was 12A. Now there was a lot of surplus generated, but when that case was brought to the commission, then it was treated as AOP, and whatever donations were received towards corpus, they were claimed as capital, and then expenditure was also claimed, and then very less income was left out to be offered before the commission. So entire perspective changes. It depends upon the expert how he prepares, but once you decide to go to the commission, and if it is a case where incriminating document is found, there is no way out except to approach the commission to get your income settled in a very small time frame of 18 months or 14 months. Also seek immunity from penalty and prosecution. The commission also allows you the installment of additional demand which can be created by settlement. Then the commission may also decide on other terms which are sometimes, like sometimes what will happen, there is a substantive addition, or there is some protective addition, or there is some addition which has been made in another case already. But suppose that income is offered here and it is submitted in the statement of facts that this amount, this plot of land that was purchased in the name of wife, and wife case is already done, and suppose you offer that amount here and that amount is accepted here, automatically consequential relief will come there. So there are so many intricate aspects of these reliefs which we can get from the commission, and commission has all the powers, all the discretion to make a view, to give a finding, and those findings are non-appealable. So this is one of the very, very esteemed forum where one should avail the benefit of approaching it in the cases where search and seizure, in cases where are surveys, in cases where there is a lot of information against the assessee and assessee is not possible to escape the penalty and prosecution. Another area where I find now, because if you go to the normal route, then there is a addition under section 68, 69 and 115 BBE, higher tax rates and penalty will be applicable. There also you can think of approaching the commission in those cases if proceedings are pending. In few cases, when the proceedings were pending before ITAT, the ITAT was requested to restore it to the file of the AO. Once it is restored to the file of AO, proceedings become pending, and then that case can be brought to the commission. So we must try to take benefit of seeking immunity from penalty and prosecution and getting the matter settled before the commission. It is a very, very great institution, very esteemed institution. People are not aware. There are very few professionals who are working there. There is no expert guidance. Otherwise, it is not so difficult. So I would like to close my address at this moment because there must be good number of questions. So let us take now questions. Okay, thank you.
Yes, HC Jain Sahab, thank you so much. In fact, many people have appreciated that it has been focused presentation, and you have spoken what is required. So we'll take the questions, sir.
I am reading also that one question which has come is, sir, can Settlement Commission reopen concluded proceedings based on the facts of case? No, this power is not there. Earlier this power was there, but now the Settlement Commission is not empowered to reopen the concluded proceedings. So that power is not with the commission.
Okay. Question number
Yes,
one,
sir,
sir. At what point of time we have to approach Settlement Commission? Is it before final orders are passed by AO or before attending the hearing? Srinivasan Shivagopal.
This your option remains. Just the order should not be passed. There are cases where the even order was passed and the assessment order was not served. Even if assessment order was not served, then also the commission had taken a view and the High Court had also taken a view. Assessment procedure is still pending. So, but once you have to approach, you may first see what AO is going to do. And if you feel that you are not going to get relief from the AO, then you should approach the commission. Till the time assessment order is finalized, you have an option to approach the commission.
Somebody wants, for statistics purposes, how many settlement cases were handled in the last year or the latest year?
In the last 1 year?
Yes, sir.
In the last 1 year in Pan India, you are talking all India basis?
Maybe, sir. Just for
every
yes,
bench must be settling around 100 or 120 applications. So altogether they must be maybe Chennai also 120. I was in Chennai, 100 or 120. Those are the cases. Cases may be much more, I find, but there is no awareness. Therefore, cases are less because they feel that it is an extraordinary institution and how to deal and how to function there. That is why people are not coming there.
So maybe, sir, after listening to you, people will change their thoughts.
Yes, yes, they should. They should. That is the purpose of this talk. Yes,
Absolutely.
Sir. Third question:
there is
where excess stock is
yes,
where the excess stock is
Hello?
found during the course of search, and the SSC explains it to be attributable to the suppressed profits of earlier years. However, the same is offered in the year of search in the return of income, since there are no records available to apportion the same during the earlier years. Would the provisions of section 115 BBE be applicable at 245D for proceedings? Seek the stock to be taxed at 60%. C.A. Ramakrishnan, Bandepalli.
okay. What I feel that, in my opinion, in Income Tax Settlement Commission, 115 BBE should not be applicable because we do not go by the deemed kind of provisions. The Income Tax Settlement Commission goes on the source. What is the source? So source of this stock is the income generated. So we have to go that way and we have to prepare application that way. Always in the Income Tax Settlement Commission, we always go to the source of that asset which has been found. So stock is an asset. So asset will not be offered. Rather the income, which is the source of making this asset, has to be offered. And then only the normal rate of tax will come.
The next question, can Settlement Commission reopen concluded proceedings based on the facts of the case?
That I have answered that the concluded proceedings cannot be reopened by the commission now. Earlier there was a power.
Dear sir, builder accept cash in consideration of sale of flat and duly accounted in books. Penalty proceedings were initiated by department under section 269 SS read with 271D. Can we go for Income Tax Settlement Commission for this very purpose? See Dilip Kumar Singh.
If the assessment proceedings are pending, then they have to go. They can go. If assessment proceedings are already over, then there is no scope. One has to be prepared in advance. Like there were cases, I have in Mumbai one case where only problem was that he had accepted, builder had accepted cash in excess of 2 lakh. Otherwise, whatever disclosure he was making in survey, that was going to be accepted by the department. Now it's a very difficult situation. Earlier, whatever disclosure was in survey, you could disclose it and there is no concealment. But now since there is penalty even for receipt of cash excess of 2 lakh, then also there is a penalty. So even in those survey cases, the only forum where you should approach is the settlement commission.
There are some more
Yeah,
questions. Shall I read it out, Chairman?
Abhishek, if you can take those, please. Abhishek, you can take those.
Yes. Sir, where the department is found to be wrong, as in the case of the godown capacity to store the machinery, assessee always develops an apprehension of victimization in a later stage. Any views on this?
No, I don't think that. See, we people as a people, we must not have that much apprehension. What I find that there is a misplaced apprehension in the minds of the professionals also and taxpayers also. If we have the courage of conviction, because after all we have to go with the truth. And once anything is seized, if the settlement commission is seized of some matter, then perhaps the department, by the time it goes back, entire machinery, entire officers who are earlier, they will get changed, because it will take 18 months, then the order will go, and those all assessment years, the findings of the settlement commission have become final. They cannot touch those orders. So there is no need to be apprehensive about this. But people remain apprehensive, that I have seen before. Whenever they were coming to commission, they were saying that, sir, we feel that that AO will be after us, or though. But I don't think that is so.
Well, the next question: can there be an estimation of incomes beyond the search material that is found?
Yes, like I told you that, like there was in the builder case only, the on money receipts which were found were only 20 crores. But we will check all the flats details, all the plots details, and we found that this 20 crores is not exhaustive. There are certain flats on money on those flats are not included in these 20 crores. So we have to extrapolate. So that is only estimation, that we are extending the same formula, same supposition that you have received on money in other flats also. So that is the estimation only that we can do, and we do it. In the statement of facts, we always want to make it on the estimate basis, because if estimate basis you make it, there is a chance of its variation, but it cannot be said that it is not full and true. If it's a matter of estimation, nobody can make an allegation that it is not full and true. It's your estimation versus my estimation. So always there is estimation. Okay.
The next question, I think, is a question most professionals are asking and seeking your guidance on this: whether cash deposits in bank during the demonetization period are taxed at a higher rate and pending an appeal, can they opt for settlement commission? He is asking, but I will extend this question a little further after you share on this. What is your view on this taxation of the demonetization cases at the higher rate, because they cannot go for the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme also? So maybe you can answer this question first, and then you can extend the answer, sir.
So what I feel, and these cases are here also, what has happened in the demonetization time assessment year 17-18, that was the time barring assessment last year. Lot of additions have been made, even in those cases where those receipts were shown as part of turnover. So addition under section 68 have been made wrongly. So you have to take it in the appellate channel. Now, once the assessment is finalized, you have no option to come to the commission. Only you have to wait till it goes to IT80, and then you get it set aside, and then you come to the commission. Then you can get a relief, but it will be a long journey. So whatever are the small amount cases, there you should go into Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Of it is a small demand of few lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. So because the tax rate is, I think, total is exceeding 70%, as I understand.
Yes.
So then in those cases, if you want to buy peace of mind, you can do it. Otherwise, in those years, this scheme is not, in fact, there should have been some clause in this scheme that in those years also normal rate of tax will be applicable. So many people would have just opted for this. This is the time that through a particular representation by your professional forum, a strong request should be made to the board that this is a great anomaly, and if it is removed, then a lot of taxes can come under Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. because it is very harsh. Then you move through the normal channel of appeal. If you can get a relief, okay. Otherwise, when it goes to ITAT, get it set aside and you can come to the commission if it is a huge amount.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Hello, sir. In case there is a revised estimate based on the information made available initially in the statement of facts, would it be considered as non-disclosure of full disclosure of true income?
This I have already told, that information you have already made available in the statement of facts. So basic information, if you have hidden, then you are responsible. Now on the basis of that information, you have made an opinion that this should be your income. Like your income should be 20%, because your assets, unexplained assets, are only 5 crores and I am offering 7.5 crore, like in that case. So either the department tells that my income was more, how my income was more. So you have to be very, very sure that whatever information you are giving in the statement of facts, out of that, whatever income you are offering, there should be no doubt that that income can also be one of the possibility what you are offering, and the commission may take another possibility. But if the possibility which I have chosen is patently wrong, then it can be said that it is not full and true. So you have to see whether whatever you are offering, it is one of the possible view of full and true disclosure. Then only you should do that. Okay.
CA Nagarajan. Sir, would the CA, would he also get immunity from proceedings if any relating to that assessee for that assessment year for any wrong report by him?
This is a very difficult question, because we are facing here also. If suppose it comes to the notice of the commission, then commission will not give the immunity, but somehow very softly one can just request the commission. So commission, if it is considerate, they will not go beyond, because after all, this matter is not within the area of settlement as such. So as a very esteemed body, the commission may take a restricted view. Whatever is before them, they must do that and let it be left to the department that way. But if sometimes it is found that really that auditor has really done something which is very, very, in fact, sometimes it happens, it is so incriminating, it is so collusive. Sometimes the commission may take a view, but generally they do not, because it doesn't come in their purview. We are going to decide and settle that case, and once we are deciding and settling that case, the assessee has already admitted that income was not disclosed full and true. For that purpose, he must have manipulated also, he must have obtained the wrong reports also, everything. So one need not to worry, but still, if such is a case, a proper expert advice should be taken on that.
One person has asked, sir, is it once in a lifetime opportunity for the assessee? Please advise.
Yes, it is once in a lifetime, and in fact, not only for that assessee, there is a concept of a specified assessee and related assessee. So entire group gets one time only if they are related. But we should not bother if we start using it, and if we want it second, why the government has not taken, then everybody will feel whenever we can do the tax evasion, whenever we are caught, we will get it. That was not the issue. Justice once you wanted, at least once people should be educated that if they do like this, okay, this time we are giving you amnesty, but not every time. But they should use it. Many people are saying this, that we want to keep it for future. Why to keep it future? If you are having a difficulty now, like there is a medicine for heart problem which is in my pocket, and if I have a heart problem, I should use it right now. The same way, if there is a problem where you want to come out, you use this forum for availing that opportunity.
Sri Ram Masti has made an observation. He is just sharing. Consensus is better with the income tax authority in most cases, especially to avoid penalty and prosecutions rather than settlement commission, he has said.
In my opinion, this income tax authority's discretion is also limited. Like if prosecution is launched, what can they do? Sometimes commissioner says, sometimes there is a proceedings going to start at a chief commissioner level, so that one cannot do at the AO level. Then there are certain penalty proceedings, they will be initiated without fail, maybe they are dropped. So it is very difficult to make a kind of a settlement with the AO. If you can make, definitely it is a better choice, I would also suggest. If you feel that there will be a guaranteed kind of settlement with AO, it is easy and more convenient to move to the AO. I am talking about those cases where is so much substantial evidence and it is not possible for the AO or for the department to grant you immunity from penalty or prosecution, and you have to pay more taxes also.
In case of a financier, the financier accepts unsecured loan from people whose identity he does not want to disclose. Whether the same will be allowed as reduction from asset being disclosed and the balance will be taxed.
In fact, there has been a special bench judgment also on this. We had constituted a special bench. I was also a part to that. So we had taken a view, then you own up those loans and you offer income on that. So you, what will happen? It will be the SOF has to be prepared in this way, that it is your own income which has been introduced in the garb of these loans, and now it has come back, and that kind of view, and then you can get a set of against the assets whatever you are having, but you have to offer those loans by owning them. And then also, since we want to avoid the application of section 68, we have to write in a different way that there was some income, that income was introduced in the form of these loans, so that can be discussed one-to-one basis only. But it will not be like that difference. Those loans amounts minimum that has to be offered as income.
If the assessment is reopened in a non-such case, can the assessee approach the commission even in respect of concluded matter in the original assessment?
If assessment has been reopened, and if it is only if that matter is not there, it is already concluded, because sometimes assessment reopening is on some new issue, then that issue is already finalized. Might be there is an appeal against that order. There can be two situations. One situation is some addition was made in the original assessment and it has become final, even appeal has come, and appeal is also final, etc. Now that is a decided matter, nothing can be done by the commission. Only whatever has been reopened, notice has been issued under 148 on some new issue, that will only be the jurisdiction of the commission. But sometimes what happens, the original addition has some linkage with this addition also, then we can make a kind of SOF with the expert advice that it has indirect bearing on that addition also.
There are just two more questions, sir. Whether an assessee can approach to the settlement commission where it has been proceeded against him under PMLA Corruption Act disproportionate assets case also.
No, I mean his answer will be no, and if he has specific facts, then he can just discuss through mail. But the otherwise answer is no. But sometimes some way maybe there where we find that we put it like this, then perhaps there may be some scope. That is all. Otherwise, no. Generally, cases where PMLA etc. is there, the commission rejects those cases because PMLA is taken as a serious act. Proceeds of crime, and here see PMLA is based on proceeds of crime, and where you write manner of driving income, so manner of driving income cannot be explained, and if in manner of driving you cannot write that it is a proceeds of crime, so it cannot be full and true that way. But still one can always take consultation, maybe the facts can be distinguished, and then we can try to find out if SOF can be prepared for settlement commission.
So the last question, sir, at what stage can the assessee approach the court against the settlement commission's decision?
If see, settlement commission order, if it is passed, assessee will be aggrieved only when final order is there. In final order also, what will happen? Commission normally gives a chance to the assessee that you come forward, you make so much of offer. Sometimes it happens that you are not agreeable, that we will not make such offer. Usually commission will await this. So if commission awaits means he sends it back to the AO. Then you can just go to the court saying that commission should not have awaited it, but it will be very difficult. Only one area where the assessee approaches to the High Court is where at second stage, that is 2C stage, the application has been rejected as invalid and their courts are giving relief. Sometimes at the second stage, commission takes a view that application is invalid. Now applicant's entire purpose of going to commission is lost. So either the application should be rejected at the first stage so that he can make up, he can just present another application, or it should be taken to the last stage where in 99% of cases settlement is being done by the commission, and sometimes assessee is asked to increase the income little higher, but still he feels he gets peace of mind. Only in few cases where the difference of opinion is so high, then those cases are awaited, and they are awaited only with the consent of the assessee. Like we had done few cases where we were of the view that you must offer 50 crore, 60 crore because we found that the income disclosure was not full and true. Then also we were ready to take a view, okay, no, we will give immunity from penalty and prosecution, you disclose 50 crores or 60 crores. Assessee says no. So we ask him whether we await the case. They say yes, you await, and it goes back to the AO. So one important stage where you can go to the High Court is the stage of rejection at second stage, where the commission says application is not invalid. That is the only stage.
So there is just one last question that has come. We will take this as the last question, sir. Builder has accepted cash consideration of flat in assessment year 2017-18 and is duly accounted for it in the books. Penalty proceeding started by the department under section 269 SS, read with section 271D. Can we go to the Income Tax Settlement Commission for this purpose?
No, if the assessment proceedings are pending, I suppose the assessments are already completed. Then only the penalty proceedings have been started. If assessment proceedings are over, then you cannot approach the commission. Then in those cases, it is better to go in for the Vivad se Vishwas scheme. This is a right case to go. I don't know if in this case also section 68 has been applied. That is not clear. Otherwise, this case is ideal to go in Vivad se Vishwas scheme.
And I think we have completed all the questions with that. Thank you so much, Hukum Chand Jain sir. Over to the chairman.
Yeah, maybe I'll request Pannarath sir to give his thoughts before we close the session. Pannarath sir.
Thank you very much on behalf of Regional Council for giving a very comprehensive talk on this, and you are so cool and slow that everybody would be able to grasp the things. You started what is commission. From that point itself you came, and with the vast experience that you have definitely done a great justice to the subject, and also for the professionals to get into this. And the very talk is implied that it is understood by many, and they are interested by seeing the number of questions that were posed to you, and they got their questions clarified. And definitely it will be an inspiration for the members to get in this area, sir. So if you can share, please, your this mail ID, any further queries.
Pannarath sir, it was flashed on the screen in between. It was flashed on the screen. People can see the recording and take the note of the contact numbers as well as the email IDs.
Thank you, sir. Very good subject selected by our chairman and secretary also. I am very pleased to be part of this.
In fact, Pannarath sir, Hukum word means order, but sir was so down to earth in clarifying things so softly. It was excellent.
Yes.
So
As
I
rightly
am
said
also
in the-
very happy. I am also very happy and glad that this subject, everywhere I am talking, people are taking it in a very nice manner, and good attendance is also there. And I think with this, I have already the kind of webinars I have done, I must have touched around 1,800 or 2,000 CAs, and so all those people are now seeing some opportunity, and there is a lot of opportunity because there are so many search cases, survey cases, and I also am giving my mail, and every day one or two query come and I just send them or they talk to me. I feel happy. So this is a kind of service, and I feel part of fraternity. So any question, any queries, even on other matters, most welcome. And I am very happy attending this webinar. We stand connected. We can again share our wisdom on some other time on some other subjects. Thank you.
We will
Great,
take
great
the
lecture,
opportunity
sir.
to kind of have you on some other session also, sir, some other topic. Thank you so much, sir. It was an excellent and lucid, slow and nice presentation. Abhishek, over to you for a formal vote of thanks, please.
Yes, thank you, Dynamic Chairman C. Dungachan Jain. Thank you, Pannaraj sir, for a nice closing address. And of course, a huge thank you to Hukumchand Jain sir. I have to really extend a huge amount of thanks. As Pannaraj rightly said, he started off with the basics. He was able to ramp it up slowly into all the complex matters in a very nice and lucid way, and also answered the question so well that our members were so happy. I can tell you that they are going back home without any doubts, and they are seeing this as a new area of practice that they can get into, because it's a very lucrative area, and I'm sure that many people will now be keen to get into it. I'm sure we have flashed your details also. I'm sure many people will now ask you a lot of doubts. I have to say, Hukumchand Jain sir is such a down-to-earth person. When I contacted him and I requested him to join, he just immediately accepted, and he has taken time out of his busy schedule to spend time here with us. So thank you so much, Hukumchand Jain ji, for making this our most successful CPA program yet. So the credit actually goes to him for being such a star speaker. So thank you, sir. And of course, huge thanks to C. Dungachan Jain. Without his support, we could not have organized this program. And he is leading from the front. And I'm very happy to say we have many more programs like this planned. So request all of you to join back for all our programs. I've made the announcements midway through the program. So I request you all to please log into the SIRC website and see what the further programs are, and please register for the same. With this, thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and take care.
Thank you so much.
In fact, thank you viewers for especially bearing with the small technical glitch we had in between and the beginning. Thank you all. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.